So, Yu Yu Hakusho. It was 5 episodes. I thought it was going to be like 10. No, it's 5. 5 episodes, about 50 something minutes long. I watched them all before I went to work. I woke up at like 8 o'clock, came on here and saw that it was up. So, from 8 o'clock to about 12, I watched. Was it good? Was it bad? Eh. Is this something I would recommend to a fan of Yu Yu Hakusho? No. Now, me, I said I couldn't call myself a fan of Yu Yu Hakusho unless I gave it a chance. And I did give it a chance. And some of the pros, the outfits, like Koenma's, you see that? Absolutely gorgeous. Botan's, actually, I think she's kind of like right there. Um, can't really see it from because it's far away. Um, but
See ya.
I'm going to kill you, you scat. No. The outfits are amazing. Also, that idea. Hang on. So they're crossing the river Styx. I mean, and this looks absolutely gorgeous. We've got, this is Spirit World and crossing River Styx, and it looks very nice. Um, Now I saw this, and so this is basically Koenma going through each person and determining where they go, heaven or hell, and basically it's taking scrolls, and it's like a movie of their life, and he's able to scroll through and fast forward and rewind all these memories and moments and everything and kind of make a determination of whether he's going up or down. It's really really cool. um you see her pink kimono, it's like because it's Botan, got her blue hair, and honestly she was probably one of the best of them. um The other one was Elder Toguro, even though he wasn't shown a whole lot. And I think it's because of the American voice actor. Yes, it's voice acted, dubbed over by, English voice actors. And as soon as I don't know any of these other actors, the voice actors, apart from one, and it was Elder Togoro's. And as soon as I heard it, I was like, is 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 that our favorite Archon? Is that Big Dong Zhang? Is that the CEO of GEO? I think it is. And then I watched, the end, and it said Keith Silverstein, and I was like, I knew it. I knew it. All he had to do was say something about how Osmantha's wine tastes the same as, he remembers. But Keith Silverstein sounded like he was having absolutely blast with the role of Elder Toguro. And it makes it sad because it's like if he was able to crazy and loud, this entire time, whether it's the manga or anime, I mean, manga, you can't really hear them, but they're animated, they're drawn. You know, Yusuke is very animated. He is very loud and obnoxious, and he does goofy things, and he's got these, the guy could have he could be spitting up his teeth, and he's going to have a one liner for you. This one, he's just like, so, where are we, Botan? Oh. It just doesn't sound or feel like Yusuke, Kuwabara, Karama, Hiei. None of them feel like their characters. Botan was the only one who, apart from Elder Toguro, was the only one who felt like her character. Um, when they meet Genkai, same thing. Genkai and Yusuke have like this amazing relationship in the manga and anime, and here there was nothing. So when Genkai died, it was like, eh, eh. And that's unfortunately that's a downside of this. It's like so many of these amazing moments that get people teary eyed in the anime. No, the first one would be like Yusuke's wake. You're that he's there, looking at all the people there, seeing his mother in the corner, and Kuwabara shows up, bawling his eyes out, and screaming and this and that. Mr. Takanaka shows up, and Keiko, and so Yusuke really gets a sense of, hey, I do mean a lot to some people, and if I was to leave permanently, look at the people I would be hurting. But here, it's just, eh. Um, the second part with like Kurama and Yusuke on the roof when they were talking about the forlorn hope, and Kurama's talking about himself and his mom and this and that. It's an emotional scene. In here, eh, it's just kind of there. One of the biggest scenes that should have been the most emotional was when Toguro and Genkai fight, and Genkai gets killed by Toguro. Here, they don't even show it. They show Toguro showing up, and then they show the aftermath of the big old hole in the wall and Genkai dead. An emotional scene that took place at the Dark Tournament, and it was the reason why Yusuke started taking things seriously. He's holding his master as she's dying, and she's saying, "Hey, don't sacrifice who you are for strength." And Toguro did that, and don't run away from your problems. Oh, same thing with Toguro did. He ran away from his problems. No, that didn't happen. She's just, "Hello, Genkai, I'm here. Toguro, we're gonna fight." And then he's like, haha, she's dead. It was nothing. There was nothing. And Toguro, he didn't have much of a story here. Toguro in the show is by far one of the best characters, not just in the show, but in anime in general. He is an amazing character and how complicated he is. And they just here it's just you don't get the sense of the history that him and Genkai have. That they showed in like the manga and anime and all that. They Toguro and Genkai, fighting partners, lovers, so in that also that final scene with Genkai and Toguro where they're talking in the spirit world where he's headed off to his punishment, you get the sense that their 50 years is now coming to a conclusion, that they're able to, talk these sort of things out and say things that they haven't been able to say to each other in 50 years. And you felt that, and it was emotional and sad, and people cried. Here, it's just, I watched it, and I was like, I remember tearing up the first time when I saw the anime because how emotional it was. But here, it's like, well, the scene's pretty. I, and the plot was all over the place. It was all over the place. Like Hiei's and Yusuke's first fight wasn't until like Tarukane's compound. So the artifacts of darkness. So he fought Goki, not in the woods, but in a junkyard. He fought Goki, and Kurama did the whole thing with the Forlorn Hope. But then he never fights Hiei. Instead, he fights Hiei the first time at Tarukane's compound. Hiei beats him. It takes him like almost the entire first season to learn how to use the spirit gun, when the spirit gun was the first thing he learned after he came back to life. But here we're seeing him try to learn to use it, and like Kuwabara masters his spirit sword before Yusuke really even learns how to fire the spirit gun. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. But he dies. He doesn't fight Hiei. There's no Genkai tournament. There's no Dark tournament, or before that, there's no Saint Beasts. There's no Dark tournament. When they get to Hanging Neck Island, it's just Team Toguro there that they fight. So they're all fighting their respective opponents. So like Kuwabara is fighting Elder Toguro, and Kurama's fighting Karasu, and Hiei's fighting Bui. But then they all join in the fight with Yusuke at the end. They all get the crap knocked out of them, and it's the final spirit gun that takes them down. But And the problem I have with the fight scenes in here, when especially that scene, is because originally they're in a tournament. They have this huge, wide open area to play around in. In here, they're confined to a small room. And it's like it takes away so much, they're in a ring, right? And then the ring is destroyed because of the powers between both of them. But they still have to have this entire arena to fight in. You know, Yusuke ends up using his spirit gun and blasts Toguro through the arena all the way out into the woods. And you see him, it's all fire and he's walking back. But here it's all one room. It's just confined, one little room. And it's unfortunately that's the same thing with all the other fights. It's all a small area and it just feels so constricting, and the fight scene themselves, they're so in the show and the manga, in both. I'm talking more about the anime because I'm sure more people have seen the anime than have read the manga. But everyone has their own fighting style. Toguro, for example, he believes in power absolute. This is the guy who will stand there and take your hits and take them and just boom, right in your face. You're not going to see him doing acrobatic jumps and this and that, but here he is in here doing jumps and kicks and this and that. That's not Toguro. Pretty much every fighting style looked the same. It just looked like regular martial arts, and that's okay. But even in the real world, people, even if they learn the same martial arts, they still put their own twist on it. This just all looked the same. Yusuke, street fighter. He grew up on the streets, so his isn't real martial arts. His is street fighting. Same thing with Kuwabara. But you have Kurama, who likes to watch, and learn his opponent and think of strategies and this and that. EA uses his speed. But here it's just all kind of the same martial arts. Togoro's flipping around, Bui's flipping around with his armor on. Karsu, everyone is just flipping around. The only one who felt kind of like their character was Elder Toguro, because he was using his, like he would in the show, he was using his fingers, jabby fingers, transforming his arm into like like a scythe type thing, and it felt more like his character. And of course, Keith providing the voice sounds like he was having fun. But the plot was all over. EA gave himself the Jagan eye apparently in here, which is stupid. The whole Yusuke pretty much like Kuwabara learning how to use his spirit sword before Yusuke learns the spirit gun is stupid. Because Kuwabara didn't learn the spirit sword until Genkai's tournament. Yusuke had already used his spirit gun before that point. Not only did he use it against a teacher, he used it against like Goki twice or something like that. So he had already used it. He hadn't, I shouldn't say mastered, but he used it. He knew how to use it. He knew focus the energy. Imagine the trigger in your mind and then pull it tightly. But the whole thing, Sakyo is the one who, that's the whole point, is Sakyo's building the tunnel between the human and demon world, and we gotta stop him. So in the anime, he doesn't get he's building it, but it doesn't actually happen. He loses, and in the anime, when he loses, he goes out in a blaze of glory. He collapses the stadium. He stays behind, the captain going down with his ship. But here it's like he loses and he has a gun. He's like, oh well, I lost. Um, the stuff with like Yukina. That was oh god, that was so bad. So Yukina, ice apparition. When ice apparitions cry, they create hero stones, and they're very valuable because ice apparitions don't cry. And the only time they do cry is that the moment they give birth to their child. So getting a hero stone or getting an ice apparition to cry is very hard. In the anime, they showed Tarukane torturing her, and I'm sure in the manga, or at least it would be implied, I'm sure that more things have been done to her, kind of like Makuro, where in the manga, her adoptive father, does stuff to her, and she's a child. She, you get where I'm going with this? Um, but they torture her, putting talismans and stuff up to her, burning her, cutting her, and she doesn't cry. And Tarukane gets to the point where he calls in Toguro, and when she finally cries, it's over something so simple. But when Elder Toguro takes the birds that are outside her, that she's trying to help free, he takes them and kills them, and that's when she cries. That this girl who physical torture, mental torture, finally cried from birds being killed. But here, he takes a cigar and burns her with it, and she cries. I'm like, no, that's no, that's not her character. This girl put up so much with so much pain and torture that she had been burned. You could see the like cuts and stuff on her wrists and this and that. And like I said, in the anime, there's also a guy who gets killed trying to save her. Even then, she doesn't cry. She's upset, but she doesn't cry. And then just seeing these birds, these innocent creatures die, that's when she finally cries. Seeing them crushed, then she cries. But here she's burned by a cigar and she cries. I'm like, that's no, 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 no. It's taking away all the emotional, impact of that moment. It's like I said with Toguro and Genkai. The emotional impact of not only seeing, Yusuke holding Genkai as she was dying, but then them finally meeting and talking after 50 years. You felt it's like, even though it was a cartoon, you could feel the tension between them, the things they wanted to say to each other, the things that they couldn't say to each other for the last 50 years. You felt it. You knew there was a history with them. You knew that they were not only partners, but they loved each other. And it was so impactful and so emotional. But here it's just like all the emotional scenes are not there. The humor of the show is not there. Again, Yusuke is the kind of person who will have his teeth coming out of his mouth and he's going to say something funny about it or make some kind of joke. Like, this is the dude who, when after he and Kuwabara stormed Tarukane's compound, you have the triad going after them, and one of them is basically a dude. But, I guess they would be considered trans at that point. And so, he's grabbing certain parts to check because he's like, oh yeah, I didn't trust up there, so I had to make sure. And he says something about he's like, don't worry, the family jewels have not been stolen. You know? He's like, oh, I think Kuwabara said, he's like, oh, you're really gonna fight a girl? He's like, I don't care if it's a man, woman, or some dude's grandma. So that's the kind of person. But here he's just like, oh, well, guess I'm gonna fight. But I don't even know how to use my spirit gun yet. This is gonna be a lot harder than I thought. It's just none of the characters are like what they're supposed to be. The emotional aspect isn't there. The humor isn't there. The only thing is visually it looks somewhat nice. Like these shots of the spirit world, gorgeous. When they were going down the river Styx, gorgeous. Some of the shots, the panned out shots of Hanging Neck Island, gorgeous. When they're at the end of the show, when they're kind of on the boat and they're kind of at the ocean, gorgeous. Some of the inner city shots, like you know, like around the Keiko's, like that little market area, Genkai's compound. Visually, it's nice. Or even when Toguro and Genkai are talking, when he's kind of walking, uh, it's very nice. But it's just, you can't rely on visuals to carry you through something like this if that's all you have. Again, there's the emotion is completely not there. The humor, these characters who are back and forth with each other, even the forced stuff with Kuwabara and Hiei in here, like in the anime it feels natural. Here it sounds like it was forced. You know, because we all know Kuwabara's and Hiei's relationship with them constantly back and forth. Here it sounds forced, and it's hard to explain if you haven't seen it. But also the hair, the wigs. Again, I've said this before and other times, but I've seen cosplayers who can get the hair and the costumes right. Like Kurama just looked like it was just a red wig. They didn't look like they styled it in any kind of way. So here's a red wig. When Yoko Kurama shows up, the ears are so painfully obviously fake and part of a costume. Like they animate the tail, but the ears, no twitching of the ears, no nothing. They're just basically like, it's just, I mean, honestly, Cowboy Bebop, as bad as that was, at least people like Jet and Spike, they were like their characters. They got loud, you know, Jet, damn it, Spike, you know, that kind of thing. But here, it's, I knew it was going to be bad, you know, so I'm not surprised. It's a shame, you know. It's still one of my favorite animes of all time, you know, and just proves more of why I'm going to go back and watch the series, um, you know, the anime. Then, because even after 20 years of the anime, you know, you don't forget the characters, you don't forget their moves, you know, their special attacks and all that stuff. And it's crazy how much you remember after that long, even minor characters. Here, I'm going to get to tomorrow, I'm not going to remember what I saw. It's just that forgettable. Again, the emotion isn't there, the humor isn't there, the characters are just not the characters, the storytelling's all over the place. There was an attempt. Anyway, if you guys watched it, tell me what you think. Other than that, I'm done here. So, you guys know the drill. I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.